Welcome back to the deep dive. We got some really interesting sources from you, our listener, about this concept, Nuche Shindok.
Yes, Shindok. It's a fascinating one.
Definitely. And it's not, some quick fix, but a really deep idea from Confucian thought. So our mission today is to sort of unpack it.
Figure out what it really means, where it comes from in those classic Confucian texts.
Exactly. And maybe explore why it could be, well, relevant for anyone trying to learn and understand themselves better today.
Right. The sources touch on its links to self-cultivation, sincerity, its roots in texts like The Great Learning and The Doctrine of the Mean.
Yeah, and how it relates to an ideal state and the kind of bigger picture implications. So let's dive in.
Okay, so as you said, the foundation really lies in those texts, The Great Learning, The Doctrine of the Mean. They're central.
Right. So how do they introduce this idea? How does Shindok first appear?
Well, the Great Learning describes this whole progression, starting with investigating things, gaining knowledge, all leading up to ordering the state in peace.
Yep.
And there's this key transition mentioned, moving from making your intentions sincere, that's dra, to cultivating your own person. Ooh.
Ah, okay. Sincerity to self-cultivation.
Precisely. And right there, the text brings up S. It translates roughly to taking the utmost care, being vigilant, specifically when you are alone.
When you're alone. So it's really focused on your inner world, isn't it? What's going on when nobody else is around.
Exactly that. The sources describe it as diligently governing even the hidden thoughts, the ones just in your own mind.
Hmm.
There's even an example given, like, if a bad thought pops into your head when you're alone, you immediately notice it and correct it right away.
Wow, okay. So it's like an internal vigilance, like being your own mental watchdog
I
almost.
think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, catching those negative impulses before they can really take root.
And the doctrine of the mean picks up this thread too, right? How does it frame Shindok?
It does. It kind of elevates it, you could say, connection doc to Juf, which is often translated as heavenly principle or the natural order of things.
Heavenly principle. Okay, what does that mean in practice?
It suggests that a truly cultivated person acts in accordance with this fundamental principle, this sort of inherent cosmic rightness, even when they are completely alone, completely unobserved.
So it's not just about behaving because someone might see you.
Not at all. It's about an internal alignment with what's fundamentally right, regardless of external factors. It's intrinsic.
That makes sense. It's a much deeper concept then. Now, the sources you sent also heavily emphasized which is usually translated as sincerity or honesty.
Yes, and this is crucial. In Confucianism, isn't just about, say, telling the truth to others. It's much bigger.
How so?
It represents this unity, a harmony between that heavenly principle we just talked about and our own human morality. It's about genuine authenticity, being true through and through.
Okay, a unity of principle and morality.
Right. Think of it as the ultimate state of being genuine, where you can't even fool yourself.
And Shindok is how we get there, how we
Ah.
cultivate that.
Exactly. Shindok is the practice of that sincerity. It's applying it at the most fundamental level inside your own mind, with your own thoughts and intentions.
Mm-hmm.
The source material really stresses this. It's not primarily about deceiving others, but crucially about not deceiving yourself.
Not deceiving yourself, that's a key distinction.
It is. It means acting based on your conscience, that inner moral compass, without worrying about external praise or blame. It's beyond reputation management.
So Shindok is the engine driving towards that state of true sincerity.
Cynical.
Okay, now Confucianism isn't just navel-gazing, right? There's this whole social dimension, sin.
Right. Cultivating oneself to govern others. That's a core idea.
So where does Shindok, this very internal practice, fit into that broader social framework?
Well, it's seen as the absolute starting point, the foundation.
Foundation, how so?
The thinking is you can't genuinely contribute to social harmony or lead effectively and ethically if your own inner life isn't well ordered and sincere.
Yeah.
Your conduct and your thoughts when you're alone, that's the bedrock upon which trust and social responsibility are built. It's like the source suggests that governing the world starts with governing your own secret thoughts.
That's quite profound. The idea that public integrity really begins in private integrity.
Precisely. And the sources mention Zhu Xi, a very important Neo-Confucian thinker.
Yes.
He apparently put it very concisely. Shindok is the path from the small, oneself, to the great, the world
From
governance.
the small to the great. I like
Hey,
that.
yeah. And it makes sense, doesn't it? If you cultivate honesty and good habits privately, that naturally flows into how you act publicly, how you build trust.
It really does. It feels intuitive that inner conflict or hidden agendas would eventually undermine any attempt at genuine public service.
Okay, the sources also frame Shindok as a tool for mind-heart cultivation.
Yes. This focuses on the practical disciplinary aspect of Shindok.
Okay, what does that entail? It's described as a method for controlling even the very subtle stirrings of the mind, the initial motives, the impulses before they even become fully formed thoughts or actions.
So catching things even earlier than just bad thoughts, like the very beginning of an intention.
Exactly. It's about awareness at that micro level, making conscious choices right at the start, deciding which impulses to nurture and which to let go.
It sounds like tending a mental garden, being incredibly diligent about weeding.
That's a very apt analogy, yes. The goal is to prevent negative or harmful intentions from even getting a chance to sprout. Being vigilant right at that crossroads in the mind where good and maybe not so good impulses diverge.
And this leads somewhere significant,
Well, the sources point out that Neo-Confucian scholars like Yi Wang saw this rigorous practice of Shindok as a pathway towards the glue,
which is,
the unity of heaven and humanity, suggesting that this deep inner work could lead to a profound state of harmony, an alignment with the cosmos itself.
wow, okay, so Shindok is clearly much, much more than just trying to look good when people are watching.
Absolutely. And that summary statement in the source material really ties it all together, I think.
What does it say?
It concludes that Shindok, in Confucianism, means engraving the way of heaven in one's heart, practicing self-restraint even without external observation, and sincerely governing even the smallest thoughts.
Engraving the way of heaven in your heart. That's powerful phrasing.
It is, and it emphasizes this isn't just about being a good person in a superficial way. It's a core philosophical practice aimed at realizing both the ideal human being and a harmonious society.
Okay, so wrapping this up a bit, the key takeaway seems to be that Shindok, this vigilance when alone, is fundamentally about deep inner moral awareness and integrity.
Yes, that inner vigilance is key.
It's grounded in these major Confucian texts, it's essential for achieving true sincerity, and it acts as the very foundation for ethical conduct that ripples outward into society.
Couldn't have said it better. It starts within.
And for our listener who's navigating all the information out there, maybe feeling overwhelmed sometimes, this idea of Shindok seems to offer a grounding perspective.
I think so. It suggests that real understanding and maybe ethical navigation in any field starts with that mindful self-reflection, that commitment to inner truthfulness. It's less about external inputs and more about internal cultivation.
That's a really useful connection. So it leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it?
Mm.
Considering this strong emphasis in Shindok on unseen thoughts, on inner sincerity. Well, here's a final thought. In our world today, with so much interaction being digital, maybe less directly observed in traditional ways,
Hmm.
how might cultivating this kind of principle, Shindok, actually change how we think about ethics, about accountability, especially online?
That's a really provocative question. How does inner vigilance translate when the alone space might be behind a screen, but potentially very public?
Exactly. Something for all of us to mull over.